Welcome everybody to our last session of ITS Pennsylvania Annual Conference for 2021. This is the Pennsylvania Regional Updates. This has kind of been an annual tradition to end ITS Pennsylvania Conference with this panel session of Pennsylvania Turnpike Commission and PennDOT. We're going to welcome our panelists and give to you today our ITS Pennsylvania members and guests an overview of the public sector business, both current and moving forward. We've got 4 panelists this year from the Turnpike Commission and PennDOT. Each is going to give about 10 to 15 minute overview of their departments, some current focus areas, upcoming work and contracts, and an outlook into future focus areas. And then we're going to open it up for some discussion around statements of interest and project execution that I'm sure a lot of the consultants out there will be very interested in. And then we'll finalize this session with opening it up to some general questions and answers for you. As always, if you've been in any of the other session, if you've got some questions, please feel free to go into the Q&A portion of the WebEx and type in your questions. We're going to go through those questions and answers at the end of the session, but if we get a bunch of those in there, we may call an audible and jump in a little bit sooner. We've got a lot to cover, so let's jump into it with our first speaker. Our first speaker is Mike Pack. Mike worked with PennDOT from 1998 to 2015, including District 5 Central Office and District 6. Mike transferred to the Pennsylvania Turnpike Commission in 2015 as a senior traffic operations project manager and was promoted to the position he currently holds as manager of incident management and traffic operations. His experience includes ITS device and systems deployments, signals, TOC systems and operations, TSMO planning, and incident and emergency management. Mike is a 1997 graduate of Penn State Harrisburg and is a veteran of the U.S. Army. Mike is also a veteran fantasy football commissioner. With that, I'll turn it over to Mike.
Thanks, Larry. You always saved the best for last. I appreciate that. Can you hear me fine?
We can.
Okay,
Mike.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, I'll do my best to keep this within 10 to 15 minutes. If not, I guess as Larry mentioned earlier, he's going to send me some angry emojis, so I'll talk kind of fast here. So again, I'm Mike Pack, and I'll give a quick high-level overview of Turnpike traffic operations. And we were asked to really kind of start with providing a quick overview of our staff. So in addition to myself, we do have 2 senior traffic operations project managers in our unit. That's Naomi Morris and John Parker. It's not Christopher. This is a screenshot from an org chart, and we're still trying to get his name changed to John. So if you do call him Christopher, you probably won't get the job. But there are senior TOPMs, and we also have an opening traffic operations project manager that we've posted. It's closed. So we have a lot of applicants, and that's kind of going through the HR process right now. And we look forward to bringing someone new into our unit. Also, the incident management coordinator we have is Todd Lease. I'm sure all of you probably know Todd. I think the entire nation knows him with all the great work that he's done for the incident management community. And Bill Howard, some of you may have remembered Ken North. He replaced Ken North as the emergency management coordinator. He runs our hazmat program, weather program. We call him Weather Bill. He does have a certificate from Penn State University for weather management. He also manages our UAS or drone program and our emergency transportation operations program, and he's been a real good addition to the team as well. This is our traffic operations performance program at a high level, a snapshot. You can see the program areas there. We developed this back in 2016 and just recently updated it this year, really to kind of show what we've done over those years, how far we've come with some of the programs, or most of the programs, I should say, as well as lay out the next 1 to 4 years of projects. So at the top there, the ops planning and performance. Really kind of that's the whole performance update cycle, quarterly planning, how, kind of where we capture our metrics, what do we need to measure, how do we measure what we're doing, as well as identify some shovel-ready projects as funding may become available throughout the year. Our traffic operations center, obviously it's with our systems, our ATMS, our computer aided dispatch system, our procedures, video wall, metrics, et cetera. Traffic incident management, a lot of what Todd Lease manages, a lot of focus on the training program, a lot of working with our partners, our responders, both internally and externally, to make sure that we keep that incident timeline as low as possible. Freight management, very important to the Turnpike. It's about 15% of our overall traffic volume, but accounts for about half of our revenue. So we're actually trying to do more and more for our freight community, including a truck parking management system at our service plazas that we're working on, as well as enhanced communications. Emerging technologies, that really kind of encompasses our unmanned aerial system or drone program, our connected and autonomous vehicle program, as well as any new and emerging or bleeding edge technologies that we're working on. ITS deployments, your standard DMS, cameras, weather systems, tunnel traffic management systems, so on and so forth, and our work zone management area is also very important to us with the smart work zones. And we do have a work zone safety subcommittee that's led by Tom Michoni in traffic engineering as well. So at a high level, how do we manage performance? Kind of at the highest level, I should say. Back in 2015, when we started the development of our traffic operations performance program, we did the self-assessment, the Federal Highway Capability Maturity Model, and you can see where we ranked ourselves in 2015, and you can see where we're ranking ourselves for each one of those 6 dimensions. In 2021, lots of progress. You can see on the right-hand side just some of the projects and programs that we've implemented to really kind of justify us elevating as much as we have in each one of those dimensions. To get a really kind of a good snapshot of what we're doing at a high level this fiscal year, again, we did recently update our top program. We do have some minor things we need to do to complete that, but it's pretty much there. ITS systems and traveler information. A few years ago, we completed an ITS gap study, and from that, we have 3 regional gaps design projects, and you can see the device counts there. We're also in the midst of deploying a truck parking management system at 10 of our 17 service plazas. We're able to get a federal grant from PennDOT to deploy that system. So probably towards the end of October into mid-November, you should start to see truck parking information on our message signs on the Turnpike. Data sharing, I know John Parker talked a lot about this yesterday. Very important to us. How do we get into the vehicles? How do we get to folks as they're driving? And one of the big ways to do it is through the nav apps. We recently secured an agreement with Google end of last year and executed the data sharing. We've been a Waze partner for 6-7 years now, and actively not just sharing our event data with them, but using their crowdsourced data to our advantage within our operations. And we're also working with Apple Maps. Our goal is to really kind of get Apple Maps and kind of round out the big 3 of nav app providers. Expedited DMS messaging. This is something that we're interested in based on the data that we're seeing from Waze, our INRIX data, other speed data sources. We actually have WSP just kicked this off, doing a data analysis for us to identify the data sets or combination of data sets that we can deem highly reliable or reliable enough to automate in ATMS and send early advanced messaging on our DMS using those data sources. Maintenance and construction notifications recently transferred from an older system, emergency notification system, into ATMS. So now, in addition to incidents and events, all maintenance and construction events are entered directly into ATMS. And TIB is a travel information board messaging. So when you're out of service plazas, we do send messages to that as well from ATMS. Working closely with PennDOT on some 501 PA enhancements, such as the push notifications. Ryan McNary presented to the 501 group, and we're moving forward with that. And I mentioned the tunnel traffic management systems. We did get some good lessons learned from our Tuscarora tunnel traffic management system, and we're scoping that out right now for future tunnel rehabs. Incident management, a couple things I'd like to note here. We work closely with our state police. We did get some STIP funding to purchase drones, actually 8 drones for 8 of our police barracks, which covers pretty much our entire system. We're pretty close to it, so that they can actually decrease the time it takes for accident reconstruction. So they do have the drones now and all the equipment, and they're getting trained. So we expect to see them using the drone technology on these investigations on our system in the near future, as well as PennDOT roads, obviously. We're finishing up the development of our unified incident command training as well. Fire EMS alignment. We're going to implement the outcomes of that study. We've had evergreen agreements with those companies for some time, going decades actually, and so we're kind of cleaning that up a bit. Jumping down to emerging technologies, we do have a connected autonomous and shared electric work group. And one of the things that we just kicked off recently with Baker is to update our CAV roadmap. I did present to ITSPA a few times over the years our roadmap and a pilot project we did with DSRC, with what everything that you heard earlier with FCC and kind of where that's heading. We really need to take a closer look at that, revise it, and see where we need to go moving forward. This is our traffic operations center. If you ever get stuck on our system, you break down, need gas, and you're not too embarrassed to call our center to get some gas, just dial star 11, and that'll go directly to our TOC technicians here in our traffic operations center. It is a combined dispatch and TOC operation. We have a row of dispatchers, and we also have duty officers that essentially manage the events, ATMS, so on and so forth. We do handle 142,000 motorist assist calls per year. Our TOC technicians enter 70,000 CAT events a year. And our duty officers, we've had ATMS now running for a couple of years, our new ATMS system with IBI Group, and we're seeing about 6,500 ATMS activations per year as well. Quick snapshot of our ITS devices, DMS mainline on the actual Turnpike. You can see how many we have there. DMS PE is pre-entry on PennDOT roads, so we can actually catch motorists before they enter our system. And you can see how many we have there. Cameras or CCTV, we are adding a lot of cameras with these new projects. One of the main reasons is that our IT department is deploying fiber across our entire eastern half of our system, as well as the northeast extension, with plans over the next several years to also deploy in the western part of our system. So that gives us that communication that's needed for the cameras. We also have roadway information systems. And quick note here, we did decide to decommission our highway advisor radio system last year. With everything that we're doing with our nav apps, the additional deployments of our message signs, as well as the push notifications that we're going to do through the 511 app. We really decided that it's no longer worth our while to continue to enhance and maintain those systems. Next generation ATMS impacts at a high level. You can see the reduction time. One of our assistant TOC manager actually went through and went through an event with the old software and then used ATMS, and you can really see the impacts of the reduction of the activation times. 75% reduction for ordinary crash, and for a full-blown Plan X, which is a Turnpike detour, 96% reduction. And as I mentioned, in the future, we're going to look to do some automated messaging. Data sharing, John Parker, I know went through this yesterday. For those of you that may not have been part of that, I did kind of talk about a little bit earlier. But in addition to the kind of the big three, the Waze, Google, and Apple Maps, we're also working closely with a lot of the commercial vehicle applications, Trimble, DriveWise, Freight Waves, and we're also kind of looking into the future to try to start talking to Truckers Path. I believe that's the #1 downloaded Truckers app, and also look into MapQuest for whoever still uses MapQuest. And General Motors is interested in testing our feed, as well as OnStar with their safety app that they believe they're going to have available in 2022. Incident management, you can see kind of really the success that we've had over the years with everything that Todd Lease has done, our maintenance folks have done, John Parker with the help, with the deployment of new technologies, protocols within the Traffic Operations Center. We've seen a big decrease in our incident duration or complete incident timeline. We've also seen about an 8% decrease in crashes on our system, and a 33% decrease in the number of times that we actually do a Plan X. We're a toll authority. It's important for us to not detour traffic off our system. So quick clearance, move it, work it, or move it and work it later. We've been doing a lot more with that and training across our system. Quick snapshot of our providers. We do have our own state police barracks, Troop T. We also contract, we're very lucky that we're able to contract directly with our towers. We have 22 contracted towers across our system. We also have evergreen agreements with fire and EMS, and you can see we do pay them stipends a year. We pay them per call, and that really kind of totals between towing, fire, and EMS, 600 to 800,000 annually that we invest in traffic incident management partners. Snapshot of when Todd Lee started back in 2016, all the training that's been done, the Sharp 2 training, traffic incident management training, this is just Turnpike led training. But you can see it started in 2016, 4 classes, and all the classes that he's taught, even through the pandemic, with virtual trainings. And I believe in the past 3 weeks or so, he's trained maybe 400 or 500 more. So doing a lot of great work there. And one thing that came in handy before the pandemic, us, PennDOT, and forget who else was involved in that. Probably says it on this slide, but I believe it was PEMA. But through Train PA, you can actually hop on there and take this Sharp 2 virtual training. If you're interested, I definitely recommend it for those that may not have done that. But again, came in handy. You can see through the pandemic how many folks that we were able to continue to train in traffic incident management without having to be in person. Again, performance measurement, it's very important to us. We get a lot of support from our geoanalytics team, our IT department, and pulling together and funding most of these metrics and dashboards that are stood up. So we've done a lot of work with really kind of what data sources do we need to look at? How do we look at it? We're ever changing and updating these dashboards to make sure that we're getting and seeing exactly how we're performing. So we've done a lot with that program. And this is why we do what we do. Looking at that incident duration reduction of an average of over 7 minutes per incident, we ran some numbers, used some values from the Texas Transportation Institute for how much does it cost for a passenger car delay, for a commercial vehicle delay? What percentage of traffic do we anticipate being rerouted for major events, so on and so forth. And you can see there that not only the cost to the actual cost savings to the Turnpike, about a little over 13 million, the hard dollar cost, but also cost savings that we do pass on to our customers as well with those motorist delays. So a real quick snapshot of kind of how we contract with our consultant teams. You can see we do have a bunch of $2 million open-end agreements there. Most of them are traffic operations, ITS. We do have one specific incident management open-end that you can see there. We are getting through the capacity of our older open-end agreements. We're working through those. And you can see with our newer open-end agreements getting towards the bottom that we're getting to half and over half percent allocated. So probably sometime over the next year or so, we do anticipate having to advertise soon some new open-end agreements. And here's a quick snapshot of our ITS device projects. You can see what we have under construction and below that under design. So we do have as mentioned, the 3 regional big ITS projects under design. So keep your eyes out next year, calendar year 2022. That's when we do anticipate advertising for those projects to be built. And hopefully I stayed within the time, Larry. I apologize if I didn't. I didn't see an angry emoji come through, so I guess it's all right.
You did good. You did good, man. You're right on it. Thanks a lot, Mike. Really appreciate it. Good information there. Again, if anybody has some questions for Mike, please use the Q&A. In the meantime, I'm going to move to our next presenter, which is Steve Gault. Steve Gault strives to ensure smooth mobility throughout Pennsylvania with new approaches to using technology to safely and efficiently move humans. As PennDOT's Chief of TISMO, Arterials and Planning, Steve uses his passion by overseeing traffic signals, arterial operations, and planning for deployment of TISMO solutions across the state. Steve has been with PennDOT for 3 years and previously worked in consulting and municipal government. And Steve is definitely passionate about these topics. And when I think of Steve, I think of traffic signals. Steve, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thanks, Larry. Well, there's more to my job than just signals, so we'll focus on PennDOT's TISMO program today, and really has a background with a strategic framework that we developed several years ago, along with a program plan and then a guidebook series. So the strategic framework I'll talk about in a second, but wanted to touch on the program plan, because that's really our action list for what we need to do to advance TISMO within PennDOT and for the benefit of all the traveling public in Pennsylvania. So we've started developing a tracking spreadsheet for all the different action items that are within that, and I think it's actually starting to really produce some results that, you know, we're able to check off many of the action items from the program plan, and we'll start moving into where we go next. The guidebook series, for those that aren't familiar with that, we looked at the concept of how roadway design works and the design manual series, DM1, DM2, so forth, and tried to model what we're doing for TISMO based on that. So we have part one of the guidebook is planning, kind of similar to DM1, talks about, you know, how do we identify the needs for projects, talks about the regional operations plans, and then how do we actually deliver projects, and some of the performance measures we can use. And then we're still working on developing the next sets of the series, the design piece, the maintenance piece, and the operations piece. So the PennDOT's overall TISMO program is really focused on, you know, how can we really address reliability, maintain mobility, minimize congestion, and do this in a way that's not just building capacity, because we know that building our way out of congestion doesn't work. So we want to have a less congested, more reliable network in order to move people and goods from point A to point B as efficiently, safely, and reliably as possible. So within PennDOT, we have two TISMO sections in our central office, and I'll focus today on the arterials and planning section, which is what I'm involved with, and then Dan Farley will talk about the operations and performance section. So within arterials and planning, we have three units: traffic signals, arterial operations, and planning and funding. And we have staff in each of those, with a unit manager and supporting staff. Signals is fairly self-explanatory, overseeing the policies and equipment infrastructure that goes into traffic signals. That section is really more the engineering side of signals, and then the arterial operations is focused on how we can efficiently move traffic through those signalized corridors, and also covers some of our funding programs such as Green Light Go and the automated red light enforcement funding program. And finally, the planning and funding is really the implementation side of and development side of that part one in the guidebook, that's identifying needs, helping to manage the overall TISMO program, and deliver projects. So a couple updates on things that we've been up to over the last year. The first one in the signal unit is traffic signal specification updates. And this was a complete rewrite of the traffic signal specifications in publication 408, which is the big PennDOT publication full of specifications. The big change is that we moved all the signal specifications out of section 1104 and into the 950 series, and a couple things in the 935 and 936 sections, so that then the master items that we use to bid projects will actually line up with where to find the specifications for those items within 408. These were published in a couple months ago, and is part of 408, the 2020 edition, change 3, and that will take effect for all projects that are let on or after October 8th. So that's available now on the PennDOT website for those that are interested, and make sure to be aware of that, especially if you're working on the design of projects that are coming out after October. We also did some things last year. In late December, we published a new edition of Publication 191, and this is now known as the Traffic Signal Maintenance Manual. Tried to reorganize and streamline the content. I think we've actually accomplished having more relevant information and reducing the number of pages in the publication at the same time. So hoping that that'll be a good resource for all of the owners of traffic signals, which in Pennsylvania, as many may know, is municipalities. And a couple key pieces that I just wanted to point out. The first being the municipal traffic signal agreements. That's a new policy that's trying to streamline the process for having the municipalities understand their maintenance requirements that come along with being the receiver of a traffic signal permit from PennDOT. We have some new program benchmarking things, pulling in some national best practices. And on the TSAM side, we've mentioned asset management and started to mandate some things relative to updating information in TSAMs. Some of the more basic information that's always been there, the maintenance checklists and scheduling for when repairs are supposed to happen have been updated as well. As far as TSAMs itself, we've made a lot of enhancements over the recent time period. The first one is that now we recognize that one of the gaps, we did a survey a couple years ago, and there was a huge gap between the majority of the users that were really focused on trying to improve the data in TSAMs were consultants and contractors, and they didn't have access to work on signals for the municipalities that they're working for. So we made it so that if you're logging in as a consultant or contractor, you can request access for municipalities that you work with. If they don't have anybody that's ever used TSAMs, that rolls over to us at central office, and then we could reach out, confirm with the municipality that they're okay with you accessing their signals, and then grant that ourselves without them having to register. We've also created a signal owner module that goes along with the traffic signal maintenance agreements and captures some of the emergency contact information, provides a way to quickly get an inventory of all the signals within a municipality. We've added the ability for guest users to upload documents. So we had in the past, the guest users can update components and so forth, but now we've added that they can upload documents. So primarily this could be pictures if contractors out in the field and not fully associated with the municipality, but working on a project that's under construction, there would be the ability to attach pictures into the TSAM's records from there. And then the last big one is the ITS maintenance module, which was implemented this spring and is going to allow us to track the maintenance activities that we're doing on the PennDOT ITS devices and ultimately be in a situation where we can actually track the costs for the specific device and how often they're repaired and really get to an appropriate level of asset management and planning for replacement cycles and rehabilitations. The regional operations plans, we have streamlined this into 4 regions, which corresponds with where we have regional traffic management centers. 3 of the 4 have been completed using the new format that's called out in part 1 of the guidebook. Really trying to move these towards a data-driven process that identifies congestion, identifies the cause of that congestion, and then tries to target what TSMO strategies would address that specific cause of congestion. We really look at the regional operations plans as our long-term plan for TSMO and ITS, and view it as really then a funnel for identifying projects and needs, and whether they go into independent projects or they could be considered an add-on to a larger capital project such as an interstate reconstruction. And this allows us to have that prioritized list to pick from as we have funding available. This just shows a map from one of the ROPs, how we've identified where there might be some crash issues that, you know, if we're able to provide better traveler information, we might be able to solve some of those things, where we have bottlenecks and might need to look at signal timing or even some limited capacity improvements. And then we review these with the stakeholders and say that, okay, the data is saying we might have an issue here, and, you know, recognizing that we don't always have the full information captured in the data sources, so providing that human element that helps us understand what's really happening, what are the real problems, and use it as a screening tool to identify those needs for the region. As I mentioned, the ROPs really become the path to the dollars and how we deliver projects. We have a TISMO funding initiative that we have about $5 million per year that we're doing in 2-year cycles, so $10 million with each TIP update. There's an application period for the MPOs, the RPOs, and the districts. In the odd numbered years, we actually have an application period open for that right now. We also have been able to secure some funding on the interstate TIP. So we have $2 million this year, $3 million next year, and then we're hoping to continue at $4 million beginning in 2023 and each year thereafter. Our antiquated funding program looks at trying to upgrade some of the older ITS devices. That's around $1 million a year. Greenlight Go for traffic signal upgrades can be up to $40 million each year, and we're happy to say that we're fully funded again this state fiscal year, which is a big improvement from where we've been the last 2 years. The Farley funding program varies, but it's typically around $10 million per year. CMAQ funding is available in some areas through the TIP process, and then of course there's other TIP funding that would be available and allocated from the MPO or RPO. One of the big projects that we have going on right now is a pilot that was identified in Act 101 of 2016 for PennDOT ownership of traffic signals. And this is including about 50 signals that are parallel to I-76 in the Philadelphia suburbs, as shown on the map here. This will include adaptive signal technology at some intersections, connecting all the intersections to our unified command and control system, and providing automated traffic signal performance measures. So this project is currently under construction, and it will be wrapping up within the next month or so, and then we'll evaluate the success of the pilot to provide a legislatively mandated evaluation of whether the pilot was successful by the end of the year. Some focus areas that we have going into next year and the year after. The first is on the signal side, following the implementation of the new 408 specifications, getting all the products recertified, and continuing to evaluate and pilot innovative products. We have more improvements planned for TSAMs. We're working on an update to the Signal Design Handbook, which is publication 149, and updating our structure standards to the AASHTO LRFD standard from what I think we're currently on an update of the 2001 standard. So that'll be a pretty big update. On the arterial operations side, following through and finishing that signal ownership pilot project is the number one thing. We're also looking to improve our remote communication guidance for traffic signals, build a decision tool for advanced signal systems to help understand what's appropriate for a given location. We have a pilot project for automated traffic signal performance measures with some stick innovation funding that will be happening, and then continuing to make sure that the Arley and Greenlight Go projects are delivered in a timely manner to most effectively use those funding sources. On the planning and funding side, the last of the 4 ROPs is the Southeast region that's looking to kick off soon. Continuing to manage the overall TISMO portfolio, looking at how we're allocating the funding from the various sources that I talked about, and then tracking projects from the ROP into being delivered. Continuing to improve the data sources that we're using for the route planning, looking at communications and how we integrate a statewide fiber optic network to improve communications and lower our life cycle costs of getting third-party connections, and then continuing to evaluate the TSMO program and where we are on the capability maturity model. We also have, similar to what Mike had mentioned, and this actually covers not just my area, but all three of the PennDOT speakers here. Similar to where the Turnpike is, we have several open-end contracts, and based on when they expire, and you can kind of see here the ones that have capacity left, and some of them may run out of dollar capacity before the expiration date, so they may end up being renewed before the expiration date. And finally, we have on the construction side, we have 4 ITS maintenance contracts, and these were all just renewed for a 3-year period in 2020, so those will be in place for a while. We also will have a traffic signal maintenance contract that's going to be coming as part of the ownership of the PennDOT ownership of signals, and then we also have several projects with the TSMO funding initiative that will be are either in construction now, or the ones that have a letter E. We're anticipating those are going to be coming into construction within the next calendar year. So that was all I had, and I'll turn it back to Larry for our next speaker.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, obviously a lot more than just signals going on in your world. Thanks. Again, if you've got any questions for Steve or Mike, please use the Q&A, and we'll start to log those, and we can even start answering some of those questions right in that box, as well as talk about those verbally. Move on to our third speaker, which is Daniel Farley. Dan is the chief of the TSMO Operations and Performance section within PennDOT's Bureau of Maintenance and Operations. Since the beginning of the program, Dan has been serving as the department's lead for the Automated Work Zone Speed Enforcement Program, responsible for the management of the program administrator contract and ensuring deployment is based on data-driven selections to establish a positive impact for the program. Dan has 17 years of PennDOT district and central office experience and is a 2002 graduate of the University of Pittsburgh. Dan is currently a resident of York County, where sometimes we cross paths from time to time at the dance studio. And I can tell you firsthand that Dan's daughter is a better dancer than Dan. Dan, take it away.
Thanks, Larry. And that is a very important fact. Today I'm going to talk about our operations and performance area, which, as Steve kind of alluded to, is the other side of TSMO. I'm also going to hit on some of the major projects within our 4 TMC operating regions. So I do have a picture of the operating region slide on here. So the Western region is typically our District 1, 10, 11, and 12. Our Central region's Districts 2, 3, and 9. Eastern is 4, 5, and 8, and District 6 is the Southeastern. So a little bit about my section and some of the units. As Steve's area, we also have 3 units. We have the Temporary Traffic Control Unit, which is led up by Brian Crosley, and they handle pretty much everything work zone related. So the work zone specifications, work zone guidance, the automated enforcement program comes from that section. The second section we have is we actually we had an operations section that we've actually broken into 2 with the annotation of data performance management. We kind of broke up a section into systems and performance, which is led by Ryan McNary. And really they focus in on all the traffic operation systems. So Ryan's group is kind of the lead, the project manager, working through requirements, coordination, liaison work with our IT group to really kind of foreseeing those applications to the finish line. In addition to that, he's also kind of in charge of our traffic operations performance management program, which we'll kind of hit on here in a little bit. And then our third area is our TMC operations area, which this is more of our, the area that provides the tactical assistance to our 4 regional traffic management centers, and we have 3 additional district traffic management centers that operate during either time of day or seasonal, depending on the region that they're located. So Dave Gaffney is the leader of that group, and typically we also have a statewide management center that's co-located with the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Center, which Dave is kind of responsible for that. And recently also Dave's area kind of has taken over some of the monitoring and management of the ITS maintenance contracts as well. So a little different from Steve's presentation, we tried to break each area into providing a roadmap of what are some of the recent improvements from that area, what improvements are we working on in 2020 here, and then what we are looking for from a future perspective. So under temporary traffic control or work zones, we have Freeval PA, which was a recent addition that we've added. Freeval PA is a limited access tool that's used to kind of monitor and predict traffic delays and patterns using highway capacity manual 6th edition logic to really get us there. So we do have a website that does have documents, training, and frequently asked questions. One thing to note for this group is we recently did add 2 additional modules, which are a step-by-step process, as well as a calibration model. And those are self-paced training courses, and we do encourage users to use those. Additionally, we did announce, and we are planning to have a quarterly Freeval PA users meeting where we are going to talk about key facts, tips, answer questions of users that are utilizing the Freeval PA software. The first user group I do want to bring up is on Monday, September 13th, from 1 to 2:30 p.m. And really, the whole focus on Freeval PA moving forward is really continuing to kind of make improvements and calibrate the data effectively with that program. This next program that within our work zone area that we have recent updates on is our AWISE deployments. I'll talk about some of the statistics in one of the future slides, but want to hit some of the key takeaways that we are getting out of that program. One of the things is really kind of enhancing or evaluating how we improve our work zone speed limit reduction policy. Really the policy looks to kind of utilize 4 main factors of worker and motorist safety, mobility, context, and driver conformance to really making sure that we're maintaining speeds where speed limits in work zones as much as possible, but really only limiting speed limit reductions when it makes sense. As part of that effort, we have looked through a lot of data and really have found some correlations of work zone configuration items that we're looking to kind of make improvements on and provide that guidance out to the consultant community, as well as when we're designing for various stages kind of moving forward. One example of that is we have recently seen where you have where you may have lateral shoulder issues on your right side. Both agencies have seen a benefit by requiring trucks to be in the left lane during certain work zone configurations. We've seen a tremendous amount of crash reductions as a result of that, and actually have seen some speed harmonization as a result of some of those configurations. So that's another area that group's kind of focused on. Another big area is obviously publication 213, which is our work zone temporary traffic control guidelines. We did do a recent update in 2020 based on field data, and kind of move forward with that. In addition to that, we also do provide an extensive amount of training. So we do have safety training, tier 1 training based on that. One of the things we are working on right now is getting a policy out there regarding MASH work zone device guidance, and when we will actually sunset certain categories of devices based on the MASH criteria, kind of moving forward. In addition to that, in 2020 improvements, we look to kind of continue the quarterly users group that I just mentioned, as well as make minor updates to the free val PA. We are also looking to add a chapter to Design Manual 2 for maintenance, protection of traffic, and add additional trainings, whether it be flagger trainings, as well as we're looking for additional safety trainings as to decision and oversight, as well as planning and design. One of the last things that we are also planning in 2022 is actually integrated smart work zone guidance as it relates to attaching to our ATMS solution, as well as the implementation of smart work zone devices moving forward. Looking ahead in the future, we are looking to make continued improvements to free val PA, make sure it's continued to be relevant moving forward. We are going to hit on lane reservation policy as it relates to that effort, which I'll talk about here in a short time. We are looking and working with industry on legislative improvements as it relates to the Act 229 signs, as well as the use of audible and visual devices on work zone devices moving forward, as well as AWIS, or automated work zone speed enforcement updates moving forward. One of the key things we are looking to kind of improve upon is how we deal with real-time management of our work zones moving forward. And then we're also looking, as part of the STIC effort, other new technologies to really innovate and use, whether that be the DAD system, which are the driveway assistance device systems, or smart arrow boards or identification location markers, from some of the technology partners. Within system and performance, the roadmap is, as Mike kind of alluded to, we have a contract with the Pennsylvania Turnpike Commission, where we made some significant improvements to 511 PA this year. In regard to the truck restrictions page, we do have low bridge clearance information in the system now. We do allow for more customized alerts within the system. The mobile app, I do want to mention, is the mobile app will work with the Google's and Waze's on top of them, so you get the best if you're using our mobile 511 mobile app to be able to use that. In addition, we also did upgrade our IVR system to provide more regional traffic reports instead of prompted requests for information. In addition to that, within our ATMS system, we did go through a pretty significant vendor code transfer this past year. We did do an integrated quarter management concept, where we did look to implement the variable speed limit signs and queue warning into our ATMS solution. And this kind of led to allowing for more flexibility with our smart work zone applications moving forward. In addition, this section also does our ITSPA performance report. We're in the 5th edition, and that's available on our website. This program actually recently won the 2021 National Operations Center of Excellence Award for the best ITS project. And just wanted to mention that. And then the last thing is our internal, and I know Ryan kind of hit on this the other day, our traffic alerts dashboard that we use to kind of monitor third-party information. In 2022, we are looking to make other enhancements to our 511 with the virtual advisory highway advisory radio that kind of Mike mentioned, being able to provide push notifications. We're also going to be identifying EV charging locations on our 511 system, as well as really continuing to kind of improve our winter restrictions, our winter/weather restrictions, kind of moving forward. In ATMS, we're looking to kind of continue and improve automating our changeable message sign messaging, whether that's a queue warning, and looking to kind of expand that to weather related messaging, similar to kind of what the Turnpike previously indicated. Ryan indicated yesterday on MView, our video sharing with our trusted government and first responders, being able to share video through that platform. And also in 2022 is the continuation of the TSMO performance report. Future efforts within this area, we're going to continue to look to improve 511, whether that's adding additional truck and traveler information to make sure that we're getting out to all users. In addition to ATMS, we're looking to kind of continue to improve our ATM strategies within the system, but also expand it to multimodal and parking modules as we kind of move forward. In addition to that, we're also looking at lane reservation, in developing in correlation with our ATMS vendor, a software, and a mobile app to be able to perform lane reservation opportunities. All the other agencies, we're also looking at continuation of predictive analysis, and really kind of what fits under that nicely is the WorkZone data exchange, being able to use the WorkZone data exchange to not only ingest but also disseminate information through that. And then the last thing is we are actively part of the Eastern Transportation Coalition in their data procurement. Within the TMC operations group, we are working on our traffic management center health measures, which typically these are really kind of getting into identifying where we may have struggles or where we can maybe improve from a performance perspective. So we're really kind of mining and filtering the data to get to really the bottom line of where our issues are within our traffic management centers, and really working with our regional centers to give them these tools to do effective management of their staffs. In addition to that, this group does kind of work with each region on the ITS maintenance contracts. As Steve kind of alluded to with TSAMs, we recently updated that to allow for work authorizations and downtime tracking to be monitored within the system, so we can kind of move towards more of a life cycle analysis. This group also is very close. Within the next month, we will have a draft of our TSMO Part 5 operations that will go out for clearance transmittal. This has been kind of reviewed internally by our TMC operations folks for several months. We've been sharing some information, but these are our policies and procedures in one document, and being able to kind of really articulate that has been a very significant effort to kind of bring that up to speed. And then the last thing this group really gets very integrated with is our winter roadway restriction guidance, as well as giving guidance to the regions as it relates to weather. 2022 improvements, we're looking to kind of continue those TMC health measures and really kind of hit and establish targets based on those health measures moving forward. ITS asset management is the continuation and progression of that program moving forward. We're looking to also continue and improve the development of our training program as it relates to our county, district, and central office staff. And through trainings, self-paced trainings moving forward. And really within the future improvements, a lot of what I kind of echoed before with recent and 2020 improvements are going to kind of continue and improve over time within this area. Just a quick snapshot of 2 central office projects. Our automated work zone speed enforcement program. I'm not going to hit on this too much other than wanted to share the information, the data that we are getting out of the program, because there are some very interesting things as a result of this. We are looking at how speed limit reductions are affected. We are also looking at how channelized versus barrier protected projects are really responding to work zone speeds. We're able to successfully do this because the vendor is recording radar speeds of every vehicle going through the work zone, and we're able to kind of look at that data and data mine based on that. So kind of leave this for the group to kind of see after the fact, but we have seen some of the trends be very positive and very similar to Maryland's program. Another central office project is our lane reservation project. In addition to that, we're also looking at incorporating the works and data exchange. So we're trying to establish a scalable project with our ATMS vendor, who is also at the same time working with other states on their systems. So we're really kind of collaborating together to identify what are the best practices, but then also establish what is our work zone data exchange and our data lake to be able to kind of to share and disseminate that information moving forward. So this is a central PennDOT project out of the onset, but we are kind of building this to really be kind of a long-term solution statewide down the road if if others in partners want to be part of this as well. Now, just hitting briefly on the regions, talk about the Western region. So some of the projects that they have is, they just submitted for an ATCM TD grant for the I-376 Parkway East active traffic management. So they're looking to do several ATM strategies from VSL, queue warning, parking management along the 376 corridor. Another project they're actively working on is a Smart Pittsburgh project, which is looking to kind of integrate and make several corridors within the Pittsburgh area smart and connected, automated, capable. In addition to that, they're also looking to kind of bring communications between the department and the city together in one group. Another effort, and this is more for our rural I-80, one of the best practices that has been identified is we call it a CCTV make on a stick, and essentially what it is we attach a camera to an existing changeable message sign for a very significant, very minimal cost, and we're able to get another camera in a very challenging location. And we've been doing that on a number of locations on our Interstate 80 corridor. And then the last thing is our I-376 Beaver County ITS project, which is looking to kind of implement fiber, DMS, and CCTVs. Our central region, a few of their key projects are the continuation of their RTMC 911 integration. So they have successfully gotten 23 out of 24 of their counties in their area to give them a feed of their 911 systems. And it really has created a tremendous incident management reduction where they're actually able to kind of see incidents within a 2 to 4 minute window. And we're continuing to kind of work with them to enhance this so we can use it as a best practice in other regions moving forward. Central region ROP, the one key highlights of this is they're actually going through their second iteration right now of the ROP process. So they've gotten all their planning partners bought into the system to the, similar to kind of what Steve indicated earlier, is really this is their kind of roadmap of these are their activities that they're really building upon when funding opportunities do become available. And then the last thing, we are working on a project before the winter on I-80 in Clinton County, where we're looking to kind of implement some additional changeable message signs. We're adding CCTV cameras. We're also looking to provide some portable CCTV cameras and really use the RWIS and speed management notifications to really enhance this kind of moving forward.
Hey, Dan,
Yes.
I know you got a couple more slides with the Eastern and Southeastern.
Yep.
Maybe you can hit on them very, very quickly. Everyone will get the slides after the presentation, but I want to leave enough time for Gunnar to chime in here.
Sure. So I'll just hit these two slides quick that I have left. So district, the Eastern region, we have the connecting signals back through the unified command and control system, being able to implement event plans as part of that. They're also looking to utilize the putting, using existing DMS structures to put CCTV cameras, and then also looking to kind of continue an upgrade to color DMS. And then the Southeastern region, they are in the process of building a new regional traffic management center, which is set to open in the winter of 22. They have the I-76 VSL and key warning project. As Steve kind of alluded to, the traffic signal ownership pilot that's out there. They're also looking at the US 30 ITS improvements and how that kind of correlates between the arterials and the limited access network there. And then the last thing I wanted to kind of hit on is the District 6 TSMO design and integration standards, which gets into the being able to kind of integrate with some of the Commonwealth IT policies and procedures. So with that, thank everybody here today, and hopefully this was informative.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it. Since we're a little bit behind schedule, we're just gonna move right along to our last speaker, who is Gunnar Rhone. Gunnar is the engineering specialist in the PennDOT Office of Transformational Technology. He has 6 years of engineering experience, which includes CAV pilot planning, deployments, and emerging mobility solutions across the country. Notable projects include PennSTART, PA's vehicle platooning policy and PDD policy, and Smart Columbus. Gunnar holds a BS in civil engineering and an MBA, both from the Pennsylvania State University. I thought we would miss Mark Kopko until I met Gunnar. Mark who? Gunnar, take it away.
All right, thanks. My name is Gunnar Rhone, and I'm the engineering specialist in the Office of Transformational Technology. Mark couldn't be here because he had a prior commitment, but I'll just fill in for him. Today I'm going to talk about our role in the department, some of the ongoing projects that we have right now, and some of the future projects that we'll have. So our office sits directly under the Executive Deputy Secretary, and that allows us to kind of coordinate with all the other departments directly, since a lot of our projects fall under or coordinate with various deputates. We also closely coordinate with the Office of Chief Counsel, Policy Office, and the Office of Legislative Affairs. Right now, there are 3 of us in our department or office. You have Mark Kopko, the director, Kevin Tobias, the administrative specialist, and then myself, the engineering specialist. Our role in the department is to serve as the subject matter expert on all transformational technologies and support the integration into the department's existing business areas. I'll cover what all those transformational technologies are in a little bit. One of our other roles is to identify and investigate emerging technologies that may have cross-cutting impacts to Pennsylvania's transportation network. By cross-cutting impacts, we're looking at technologies that are going to affect the legal policy and the various different deputates that will eventually take on those technologies once they mature. We also coordinate with all stakeholders to ensure consistency and interoperability as technology is deployed. And those stakeholders could be locals to make sure that the technologies are consistently employed across the state, or it could be coordinating with other states to make sure that we're consistent nationally with best practices. The technologies that we're currently responsible for mainly are automated vehicles, platooning, connected vehicles, broadband fiber, personal delivery devices or the sidewalk bots, PennSTART, which is the automated vehicle test track that we're currently working on with Penn State, and smart city initiatives, which the cities would typically lead and we would have input into. We also support shared mobility, Hyperloop, electrification, which is led by the policy office, mileage-based user fee, and UAS, which is led by the aviation deputate. Just real quick, I'll highlight some of the completed and ongoing projects that we have right now. One of the big ones that we have is the ADS demonstration grant. That is an $8.5 million grant that we won from USDOT a couple years ago. The scope of that project really is to try to better integrate automated vehicles into work zones. We're working with CMU, Penn State, and the project manager HNTB, and some of the other sub-consultants on that project. What we're trying to do is use 3 different technologies, which are pre-mapping the work zone to send to the AV. We're trying to add connected vehicle components to cones and barrels to give off their location to send to the AV, and then also add enhanced coatings, which are more visible to LiDAR and other sensors, which are developed by PPG. So we're going to add that to the line striping and cones and barrels to give them more visibility with the automated vehicle. And we're going to see if any of those technologies can help us to better integrate the automated vehicle into the work zones. One of the other projects to highlight would be the Atherton Street Connected Vehicle Sandbox. The Atherton Street corridor is currently being upgraded by Steve Gault's group as part of a arterial upgrade. And as part of that project, we're going to throw in 7 intersections equipped with connected vehicle technology that will allow any of the testers or researchers up in State College area to kind of have a sandbox to play around in to test their technology in. One of the other projects is the Fiber and Smart Mobility Strategic Plan. There's kind of 2 different parts of that project. You've got the Fiber Strategic Plan, which is looking at how we can deploy a large backhaul around Pennsylvania to enhance our own fiber network, and that'll closely be related to the Smart Mobility Strategic Plan, so we know where the current and existing ITS devices are, so we know where this backbone should be placed. The Smart Mobility Strategic Plan focuses more on creating a toolbox for the different stakeholders so they know what smart mobility options they have what options they would have to use for any congestion issues or any other issues that they might be having in their area. So it's just a toolbox that the stakeholders would have. We talked about the EV mobility plan yesterday. That's looking at how we can deploy EV chargers and other devices to enhance the mobility of goods and people around Pennsylvania once EVs become more prevalent. And then, of course, we also have PennSTART, which is our automated vehicle test track. That recently, we finished the system engineering for that project, and we're looking at moving into the design phase soon. So some of the upcoming initiatives that we have, let's highlight a couple of these. We have the Connected Vehicle Smart City Specifications. That's an internal project that we're working on right now. Because like I said before, one of our goals is to pass these technologies once they mature off to our other stakeholders. So if we can create our Connected Vehicle and Smart City Specifications now, that would allow more consistent deployment once we hand off these technologies. We're currently also working on a smart shuttle or AV shuttle project down in the Navy Yard that's being led by AECOM as part of the I-95 project. They want a grant through DVRPC to deploy that shuttle. It's basically going to be a full-size 19-person normal shuttle that's going to be retrofitted with level 4 driving technology. So that'll be an interesting project to see how that shuttle operates in the Navy Yard. One of the other projects that will be coming up is in UAS. We'll be working on a statewide strategic framework for UAS, and then also looking into advanced air mobility, so like eVTOL, package delivery, and other advanced air mobility solutions. As far as upcoming open-end agreements, we're looking at another new upcoming open-end in the fall at some point. That will be the usual $2 million over 5 years that done in the past. Some of the challenges that we're looking at over the next 5 to 10 years, of course, legislation, both at the state and federal level. Good legislation could really help the automated vehicle industry, obviously, and bad legislation could open up some holes in safety, and that could set the industry back a couple years if an accident were to happen because the legislation was too loosely written. Of course, there's always funding issues. Funding usually isn't dedicated to projects that are looking too far out into the future that wouldn't have day one impacts. So a lot of our projects that come out usually have day one impacts. There's also uncertainty in the industry. Obviously, connected vehicles, the FCC ruling, we don't know which way that's going to go in the long term. And connected vehicles are always uncertain, or automated vehicles are always uncertain because new use cases could pop up that could change the industry. We also have backhaul challenges. We have the fiber plan that we're working on right now to upgrade the backhaul. But in the future, we'll have a lot more connectivity and data coming in. So we need to make sure that the backhaul is appropriately sized and we can handle all the data. We also have asset management challenges. As more technology is deployed out in the field, we need to make sure that all the hardware is up to date, has the right firmware, and is working as needed. And then we also have coordination challenges, just making sure that we're coordinating with all the correct stakeholders and no one's left out, and we're using national best practices and making sure we know what they are. So that's all I had, so I'll pass it back.
For being brief, but on point there, really appreciate it. We're going to transition into talking a little bit about statements of interest, business development, and work performance. While we do that, just a reminder, we've got the Q&A chat, and to hang on at the end of the session here today for the door prize. So I know Steve McGinley's pulling up some slides that we wanted to share with you. And again, these slides will be available after the annual meeting for your consumption as well. Really what we want to do as part of the session is to hear from each of our panelists a little bit about lessons learned and tips from the dating and proposal phases, if you will, as well as once you guys are married up as a consultant with the PennDOT or the Turnpike, some work execution tips from each of our government sector clients. So I'll ask a question and just kind of hone in on one of the bullets up on the screen, and any of the panelists can chime in here. There's an item up there that talks about don't compromise your approach, and that more isn't always better. Does one of our panelists, Mike, Steve, Dan, or Gunnar, want to start us off by just explaining a little bit more detail what is meant by that particular tip when it comes to statements of interest?
I guess I can.
Somebody.
Yeah, I guess I can maybe take a stab at it right out of the gate.
Thanks,
I think
Dan.
I think what we were looking at with this is the fact that, really kind of read the statements of interest and really focus in on what value you're going to provide to the project or the statement of interest, and not try to include everything that you've kind of done in ITS or traffic operations or TSMO. Really kind of hone in on what the statement of interest is really focused on at this point, because it's really I think that's really kind of the selling point, not necessarily we don't want to see kind of the whole body of work in a lot of these statements of interest. I think a lot of them are strategically for either efforts that we're working on or efforts that we'd like to kind of progress forward.
Great, thanks, Dan. And if all the panelists, if you guys can turn your cameras back on, really appreciate it so our attendees can see you. Steve, you want to add pick out a bullet on the screen or otherwise, your tip of the day when it comes to statements of interest?
I'll take the next one down from the one you mentioned. Don't exaggerate your previous work experience or level of input. I think it's something where you never really know who's going to be on the selection team and what they're going to know about specific projects you mentioned. So I know there's been ones where I've been on the selection team and somebody mentions a project, and it was either a project that from the department standpoint may not have gone as well as what was represented in the statement of interest, or from a technological standpoint it maybe was using outdated technology, or we knew that particular consultant was not was maybe a sub-consultant and had a small role in the project. So I think that's an important thing to remember. Just be aware of who might be reviewing it and their knowledge of the work. And I guess, at least from my perspective, I'm not afraid to call your bluff.
Great, good advice, Steve. Good advice. Gunnar, any of these bullets or something you want to add in terms of statements of interest?
Yeah, sure. I think having diversity on the project team is a really great point, and even looking from like a traditional diversity of the workforce all the way from the entry level all the way up through the C-suite and board of directors is really important for the project. But for our projects, we're also looking for a diverse background and technical experience. On the project teams that normally submit on our open ends, they'll have the really deep technical expertise in your ITS and advanced emerging mobility, but they'll also usually have some kind of experience in marketing and communications, academic experience, possibly vendors, training partners, and a lot more. So you just never really know what you're going to get into with these emerging mobility projects, so it's important to have that diverse background.
Yeah, particularly these open-ended type of contracts, right? Mike, anything to add from the Turnpike Commission perspective?
I think something that's somewhat related to a couple of those bullets is, there's times when we get a submittal and the prime maybe not have done much work for us, or maybe doesn't have that broad of experience with what we're looking for in the scope of work and the requirements. Do a pretty decent job in kind of pulling together the subs to kind of fill that out. But I recommend that if you're kind of newer to the Turnpike, or maybe don't possess as much experience, within your company, to maybe start out by teaming up with some of those that traditionally are on our project teams, and see if you can become a sub. Really kind of get that exposure, get in that way, start really kind of learning more about the Turnpike and working a little closely with us before kind of taking that next step and trying to prime some of those efforts.
Great, thanks, Mike. Anyone want to address the one bullet up there about local presence and national expertise and finding a balance between that in your proposals?
It probably impacts Gunnar's area the most. so I don't want to step on his toes here, but I think there's definitely benefits to having staff that's local and not just from I think as we've transitioned more into virtual meetings, it's not necessarily somebody that can show up at the office in 5 minutes type of thing, but someone that has experience with the transportation system in Pennsylvania and the things that are unique about Pennsylvania in terms of how mobility works. But there's also we don't want to be just inbreeding in terms of what we're only seeing Pennsylvania experience, and sometimes we're missing out on good things that are happening in other states that could really help us, and having that, being able to blend, knowing what we typically do and knowing what's happening in other states can really be a good level of experience that's helpful for us.
Great.
Yeah,
Thanks,
absolutely.
Steve.
I would definitely agree
Yeah.
with that. Just being local expertise definitely helps with being able, knowing the people, knowing the area, knowing the culture of Pennsylvania, and being able to show up to your in-person stakeholder meetings. And then the national expertise, just being able to bring in all the national best practices and things that these large teams have learned just throughout their previous projects. It's really helpful, the projects that we're working on.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Gunnar, for that. Steve McGinley, if you can move to the next slide. We'll move on from statements of interest and talk a little bit about once somebody's awarded a contract and under contract, the execution of the work and ways to excel there. I'd like to hone in on a bullet to start with that's up there around innovation. It seems a little bit counter to everything we typically hear, just because of the promotion over the particularly last 5 years or so with the statewide innovation council, and Turnpike has its own innovation council. But the bullet up there is innovation isn't always the solution, and understanding the problem and what we're trying to solve. Not to put you on the spot, Steve Galt, but I think you might have been the one who brought this up in some of our pre-meetings as something to keep in mind as somebody executes the work. Do you want to start out addressing that?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So I think a lot of times, everybody wants to find the latest buzzwords, and depending on who you're dealing with on the agency side on a project, you may think that, oh, well, this person's really interested in this, or this person's really interested in that, and sometimes are really recommending a solution based on what you think a person wants, instead of actually trying to pitch what your idea is and what you think is actually the best solution for the problem. And we've seen a lot of things where it's well, let's do and I'll go back to my traffic signal roots here, but we oftentimes try to put the latest bells and whistles into a traffic signal where just getting basic equipment that's functional and doing a traditional retiming might be a great solution for the problem, and cost a fraction of the money in terms of how much we have to spend in construction. So I think there's always that, don't mention the word cost in a SOI, because sometimes that gets flagged, but there's there's ways to try to find what's really the right sized solution for the problem.
Yeah. And of course, we're talking about executing the work, and those O&M costs are important too. So when you're thinking about those solutions, right? So, Mike, anything here that you want to point out in terms of execution of work with the Turnpike Commission that may or may not be on the screen?
Hey, one of the things that I mentioned in this slide is really kind of consider kind of the sharing of the costs of for research and development. In particular with the newer technologies, connected vehicle devices. There's times over the past few years where we've been approached with, we have the best solution ever for connected vehicles. We're way ahead of the game. This is what we propose. Then you start asking some of the nuts and bolts questions, and you kind of quickly realize that it's really kind of the vendor really kind of wanting to test our product. And then they give you a price tag of, 2 million. We could do this for only $2 million, so it's one of those things where, just consider that, yeah, that, we kind of can see what you're really kind of trying to do with getting, the public sector really kind of to finance the development of your product. And what we know that we want products to kind of get to the level of being able to be widespread deployed, but we really need to work together and share those costs if it's something that you'd want us to really kind of entertain.
Great, thanks, Mike. Gunnar, any one of these that you want to point out? Perhaps the lessons learned or coordination with multiple sectors? Any tips?
Yeah, absolutely.
for our
The
group?
coordination with multiple sectors to prevent dead ends. Just a lot of the consultants that have come on are creating these innovation groups with different areas of the industry. So they'll take all sorts of different vendors and create these cross-functional industry partnerships. And having all those contacts from around the industry kind of allows them to have a good vision for the future of the industry. And that really helps us because having that vision just really helps the projects.
Great, thanks, Gunnar. And while we have Dan wrap this up, just a last call. I haven't seen anything in the Q&A or the chat, but last call from attendees in terms of any questions that you might have for our 4 panelists. But Dan, do you want to wrap up with your tip of the day when it comes to excelling at work execution?
Yeah, I would maybe add the fact of being able to continue to progressively grow within your organization and not look at the projects to kind of be that training bed to be able to do it, because I think we all collectively need to progress industry moving forward. So I think using forums like the ITSPA forum, I think is a good opportunity to really kind of talk about lessons learned, as well as provide what worked, what didn't work, and have honest conversations as it relates to that. Because really at the end of the day, I think having multiple different vendors, consultants, industry partners go through the same learning process isn't really going to progress the technology forward. So I maybe just wanted to kind of hit on that from the kind of continuing to use forums like this to really improve our training and our the knowledge base within the industry.
Great, thank you, Dan. I see that Steve McGinley put in the Q&A the website for Train PA. I'm not seeing any other. Oh, somebody did ask that question. Thank you, Michael, for asking a question there. So again, last call for questions and answers, but I'm not seeing anything else here. All right, not seeing anything else. If we could hear applause, we'd probably be overwhelmed, but at this point, I want to thank our 4 panelists, Dan, Steve, Gunnar, and Mike. Really appreciate all the information you shared today with the ITSPA members and our guests for today's session. Thanks, guys, for closing us out for a great conference. I think I'm now turning it maybe back over to Amber for door prize, or Kevin.
You are correct, Larry. So I want to thank everybody for, just supporting our organization through membership, through attending our sessions today and yesterday, as well as just our events, and participating in receiving our e-blasts. So we really appreciate everybody who has stuck with us over the years. So a big round of thanks and applause to everybody who worked on this, all of our panelists, and everybody who attended. With that, however, we have 2 $100 cash Visa gift cards donated graciously by Kimley-Horn. So I will draw for those. Congratulations, John Mize. You are our first recipient. We will draw one more. Congratulations, Ed Regal, on our last door prize. Again, thank you, everybody. As a reminder, we will be sending out surveys for you guys to complete for each session, and then you can self-report the PDUs from there. The presentations will be on our website. We'll send out an e-blast with that information, and when they are uploaded, the recordings on our YouTube channel. So enjoy your afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much.